All right, let's look at this example here. And so in this example, we have a triangle, and we have the three vertices of a triangle at these coordinates, 1, 0, 3, 3, and 7, 0. And we want to look at what this matrix would do let's see here. Oh, here. Let's do this. So let's set up the matrix A using these coordinates. Okay. So the way we're going to set this up is we're going to have one row that represents the x coordinates, and the second row would represent the y coordinates. Okay. So each column would represent a point, right? So you'll have 3 columns that would represent a point. So this one would be 1, 0, and then 3, 3, and 7, 0. So this here are the x coordinates, and this here are the y coordinates. Okay? So this matrix here represents the vertices of this triangle. Okay? So now, we want to transform this matrix. Okay, and the way we're going to do this, let me just make sure I get this done right. Hold on. Let me make sure, I just want to make sure I got this right. This is, where's it at? All right, so the first one says use addition of matrices to shift the triangle 3 units to the left and 2 units up. So 3 units to the left and 2 units up. Okay, so that's what we want to do for this first part, right? So we want to 3 units to the left and 2 units, was that right? Hold on. Yeah. Yep, 3 units to the left and 2 units up. Okay? So, how are we going to do that? Well, if we want to move dealing with this matrix here, if we want to use addition of matrices to move these points, so this is the each point, right? So we want to move the points 3 units to the left and 2 units up. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to want to move each of these to the left 3 units, which means we're going to subtract 3 from each of these. And to move it 2 units up, we're going to have to add 2 to each of these coordinates, right? So it makes sense that our matrix that we're going to add to this is going to be very simply this. Right? Because when we're adding, right, we're adding component-wise. So each one of these, we're going to have to subtract 3. And for each one of these, which are the y coordinates, we're going to add 2. And so that's as simple as it gets. So in this case here for part A, we would just do A plus B, which would be equal to 137030 plus -3, -3, -3, 2, 2, 2. And then of course, it would just end up being -2, 0, 4, and then 2, 5, 2. And so that's that. Now they say, okay, well, let's do this. What kind of transformation does this have? So the next two, we're going to do part B. Now what we want to do is we want to use this matrix. We want to do matrix multiplication. We want to use this here, -1, 0, 0, 1. And we want to multiply that by A, right? Which are the vertices of the triangle. And we want to know, we want to say, what transformation does this represent? Okay? So if we do that, that's going to be -1, 0, 0, 1. So notice here, right? So we have 1, 3, 7, 0, 3, 0. Okay? Notice that this is a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 3, so that the dimensions match, right? So we can do this. And so now what happens here? -1 times 1, right? So this is going to end up being what? This is going to end up being a a 2 by 3 matrix, right? So we get -1 times 1 is -1. 0 times 0 is 0, so we get -1. Okay, then we get what? -1 times 3 is -3, plus 0 times 3 is 0, so we get -3. And then -1 times 7 is -7, plus 0 times 0 is 0, which gives us -7. See that? So what this did was just take the opposite value of this row. Okay? And now we go to the second row, first column, right? And again, this is going to be 0 and then 0. This is going to be 0 plus 3. And this is going to be 0 plus 0. And so all this did was repeat the second row. So what happened? All of the x coordinates, what? Went from positive to negative, which means this is a reflection across the x-axis. Or no, I'm sorry, across the y-axis. Okay? So all these points flip to the other side. Okay? So this just reflects across the y-axis. What about this one? Now what do you think is going to happen here? If I have this. What do you think this is going to do? Now the negative is on this coordinate. Now over here, all this did, this row here, all it did was repeat this row, or excuse me, repeat this row here, okay? And this row took the opposite value of this row. So now what we're doing is we're switching these. Now this is positive and this is negative. So what do you think this is going to do? Well, this row is going to repeat the first row, and this row is going to take the opposite value of this row. So it's going to end up being a reflection across the x-axis, right? So, but let's go through it. So 1, 0, 0, negative 1. So these are just reflections. 1, 3, 7, 0, 3, 0. Okay, so again, this is just going to be 1 times 1 plus 0 times 0. 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Plus 0 times 3 is 0. So we get 3. And then 1 times 7 is 7. Plus 0 times 0 is 0. So we get 7. And then in here, again, the second row, first column, 0 plus negative 1. Oh, hold on. No. 0, 0, yeah, I'm sorry. 0, 0 times, so 0 plus 0 is 0. And then 0 times 3 is 0, plus negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. And 0 times 7 is 0, and negative 1 times 0 is 0. And I was right. All right, that's it. Have a great day.